Albert DeSalvo would go down in history as the Boston Strangler, admitted to killing 13 women, but by law was never fully proved to be the Boston Strangler. Today, we're going to tell his story and discuss what really happened and take you to the real life locations. Let's begin. Well, to kick off this story, what better place to be than right here in the city of Boston, Boston Common Park, the oldest park in the United States. This is where our story begins. So Albert DeSalvo was born outside of Boston in the year 1930. Lower middle class, pretty much lower. Now his father was like crazy nuts. He would beat the kids, beat the mom. There's a story that we found out later from Albert and even his brother who told the story that one time his mom got into a fight with his dad, and his dad actually came home and like broke her fingers right in front of the kids. The dad would also bring home prostitutes and have, I'll put it this way, sexual relations with the prostitutes in front of the kids. So as you can see already, he grew up kind of like a future serial killer would, you know. His father taught Albert at age 5 how to break into homes. Age 5, just think about that, how crazy that is. As a young kid, Albert is troubled with the law and has to go to reform school. By age 17, he's in the army in Germany. Not long after, he's accused of assaulting a 9-year-old girl. The case is dismissed, and he's discharged from the army. Boston, 1960. Albert starts knocking on doors of women. He says he's from a modeling agency. The woman thinks he looks okay, so they let him in. After a little sweet talk and flirtation, they have relations, if you know what I mean, with Albert. Funny enough, none of them complain. Months later, after no modeling contracts ever come through, the women start calling the police. The police dub him as the Measuring Man. In 1961, Albert is arrested for breaking and entering. He confesses to being the Measuring Man, and 11 months later, he's free. Then begin the attacks. Summer 1962 Boston. The first murder. The first murder is of Anna Slessors in an apartment. She's discovered dead, naked on the floor. A cord from her coat is tied around her neck in a bow tie. Then we have the second murder, 68-year-old Nina Nichols. Her body's also found in her apartment, strangled with her own stockings. Well, we have arrived at our very first actual murder location. It's on this street, and it's this building right here. Shortly after, there's a third murder. This one, however, is not in the city of Boston, it's just north. It's that of a 65-year-old Helen Blake. She's strangled with her own stockings and assaulted. After this, the media picks it up. There's a killer loose in Boston. Then there's a fourth woman found, 75-year-old Ida Erga, strangled with a pillowcase. She's left in strange positions. Over a 2-month time period, there's 4 women strangled, and Boston panics. Women won't even let postman or the milkman come up to their door. The animal rescues are empty. They're all sold out because citizens of Boston are taking home dogs to protect them.
All sizes, both large and small, since the strangulations began.
There was a run on locks.
After each one of these stranglings, we get quite a spurt for all types of locks, mainly these chain locks.
It's really crazy to think Albert DeSalvo at one time went right up these steps and right through these doors up to her apartment. Something I never thought I would see in person. It's very creepy to be here at night too. But there's a part of the story, like, you know, this is why I wanted to come here at night. If you can't see me, you get it. But this is crazy. All right, let's go to the next one. One of the craziest things of all, in my opinion, is the Strangler never even broke down the doors. He was always welcomed in. At this time, he's dubbed the Boston Strangler.
Since June 1962, we've interrogated or interviewed over 5,000 people. We've screened over 2,500 sex offenders who have been released from mental hospitals and jails and institutions.
But the cops had little to go on.
By now, hundreds of sex offenders in Boston are questioned, all except one, Albert DeSalvo. December 1962, there's a change in the murders. Instead of older women, a 20-year-old African-American named Sophie Clark is found dead in her apartment, strangled.
She just didn't move, and I was really panicked and shocked, and I called out her name, and I said, "Oh, God." And I just stood there for about a second. I thought, well, what was I going to tell her mother?
By the end of 1962, 7 women in total have been strangled. Middle of 1963, another 3 are dead. One of them is Evelyn Corbin. So this is one of the only actual residential homes rather than apartments that the Boston Strangler committed a murder at. Man, it almost looks like a Michael Myers house. Yeah, this house right here in Lynn, Massachusetts, outside of Boston. Would have been walking these streets and going up to this door and just let right in. Once again, crazy to be at this spot as well. Man, crazy and sad for the victims, but that'll teach you, don't let just anybody in your house. Women start reporting being assaulted by a man wearing green workman's clothes. Became known as the Green Man. He would go into apartments, say he worked for them, how to fix a leak or a light, and that's how he would get in. 1964, a sketch is created of the Green Man. Detectives recognize him as Albert DeSalvo, the former measuring man. DeSalvo is arrested and taken to a mental hospital for the criminally insane. Well, we've made it to our final stop in this video. We are right now outside of Lynn, Massachusetts, at the Puritan Lawn Memorial Park in search of the grave of Albert DeSalvo. 1967, DeSalvo is accused of armed robbery and assault. He's sentenced to life in prison. However, he's never charged with the murder of being the Boston Strangler. His brother thinks he confessed for the fame. Now, obviously, Albert DeSalvo would admit to being the Boston Strangler. During his questioning with the police, he said answers and certain things that only the killer would know. So the police were like, he has to be it. Nobody else would know this, right? However, by the end of the case, there was no physical evidence that he was the Boston Strangler. Even though he admitted to killing 13 women, there was no physical evidence back in the 1960s. Now, it's really interesting. In the year 1973, Albert DeSalvo's in jail for how many years, right? He says he's going to tell the full story of the Boston Strangler and who the Boston Strangler is. Now, I don't know if he was doing it for a publicity stunt. Like we talked about, a lot of people think that's what it was all about. He wanted fame and attention, and he thought he was going to get money, even though he was in jail. But he was going to come out and tell the whole story of what actually happened. And then what's crazy is the next day or the day after, something along those lines, he was stabbed in jail and murdered, and that would be the end of it. So nobody knows what he was going to tell the world. If there's anyone out there who actually is interested in coming and seeing his grave that's in the area, I'll kind of help you to get here. So we pretty much drove in. He's in section S, which is pretty much in the middle of the cemetery. It's the largest part, but look for section S, and then you're going to drive around. And if this will give you an idea, right? There are those rocks in the background. That's a pretty good indicator, but we're coming up to it. His gravesite is right here. Wow. This is the gravesite of the one and only Boston Strangler, Albert H. DeSalvo, 6 feet below us. As of today, the Boston Strangler case still remains open. However, as soon as Albert DeSalvo was arrested, the killing stopped. Well, everyone, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you like this type of content, please check out one of these other videos left or right corner on my channel. Please remember to like, and I'll catch you all in the next video.